Hey, what's up guys? Today I decided to do a video on why I think powerlifters need bodybuilding. Well, more that they need accessory work, but bodybuilding sounds better. So I did the voiceover and the actual video separate, so it's a little out of sync, but it's more important to actually listen to the video than watch it. So without further ado, here you go. Alright, voiceover video time. So, decided to make a video today on why powerlifters need bodybuilding. In reality, that's not 100% true. They more or less need accessory work, but bodybuilding sounds better. Now, how can we use these accessory days like I'm talking about? Well, if you're watching the video as well as listening to me, one of the first things I like to do is actually do some quote-unquote mobility. Now, I am not a huge proponent of mobility. In fact, some would say I don't like it at all, but I like to give myself 10-15 minutes to work out things that are bothering me that day. If your hip flexors are feeling tight, if your glutes feel inhibited, now would be the time to do some work on them. My rule is, if it is not letting you get into the position you need to, then it's time to give it some love and work on it. Another thing I like to do on these accessory days is actually practice. Powerlifters tend to forget that it's a sport and you should practice like you play. I like to go in sometimes and just practice my squat form, my bench setup, my deadlifts, anything like that. You can use this with a very low percentage of your 1 rep max and just grease the groove. So the first point I'm going to make is to train neglected muscle groups. Anyone who has competed in powerlifting, the sport of powerlifting is the squat, the bench press, and the deadlift, which for the most part covers most of our bases when it comes to training most muscle groups. But muscle groups like the upper back, the biceps, parts of the shoulders tend to not get as much love as they should. So having a day like an accessory day, like you'll see in the video you're watching right now, gives you a chance to kind of balance out these neglected muscle groups with the amount of work you give to your squat, bench, and deadlift. Second point I'd like to make is that we can use this accessory work to keep our joints healthy. Now, you've probably heard that a lot of people like to recommend rows and stuff like that to keep their shoulders healthy from the amount of pressing. I'm not in complete agreement with that, but we'll go with that for today. The amount of pressing you do, the amount of squatting you do, the amount of pulling you do puts a lot of pressure on your joints, as it should, but doing things like bicep curls, believe it or not, can actually help alleviate some of those symptoms that you get in your elbows from too much bench pressing, too much inflammation building up there. 3, I've gone over this in past videos and I'll probably go over it again, but more muscle mass is favorable in powerlifting. Muscle moves weight, fat does not. The more muscle mass a lifter can have in his respective weight group, theoretically, the better he or she will do. A 83 kilogram lifter or 182 point whatever in pounds that is 10% body fat will probably do better against a lifter in the same weight class who is 18% body fat. My fourth and final point, as silly as it might sound, is to look good. Yes, that's right. You still want to look good. The notion of powerlifters looking like they don't even lift has been along for a very long time. And with the explosion of raw powerlifting, we are now seeing more and more well-conditioned powerlifters. And go figure, these guys are breaking world records every day. The guys that look like bodybuilders are performing the best and placing the best. So that's the end of the video, guys. As you can see, it was almost more of a rant video than anything, but I think I made my point. Powerlifting, like any other sport, is not black and white. We're always learning something, and you should always be learning something. And you shouldn't be afraid to try new things, much like a little bit of accessory work or bodybuilding. All right, but that's it for today. I'll see you next time.